Welcome back to the Jeremy Awakens Podcast. Today might be the most legendary podcast I've ever recorded. All right, it's a long one, but I promise you it's well worth it. I have Planet Bibi here, and Bibi is a global leader in conscious sexuality. She speaks all over the world talking about energetic lovemaking and how to deepen your connection with yourself and your partner. During this podcast, we talked about things that we've never talked about on the podcast. We go deep into breast implants. We talk about how to really have full body energetic orgasms without actually ejaculating. Pretty crazy stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, we had some really real and raw conversations. So if that is something that triggers you, you probably should not listen to this episode. I'm just going to be completely honest. And the last thing I'm going to say is we start off this podcast with a very personal story that happened a couple nights ago here in Miami. So again, if you're ready to dive in to deeper states of sexuality, sensuality, consciousness, buckle up because you are in for a ride with the one and only Planet Bibi. Now, Bibi, let's just clear the air from last night, because the reason that I feel bad about what happened is two main reasons. Number one, I really do consider myself someone that is a man of my word, and that if I have a commitment, I'm going to follow through and do it and show up. So not doing it just doesn't feel good, right? And then number two is I have so much respect for you. Like, genuinely, I have so much respect for you and like the work that you do. And it was just a missed opportunity for me. So yeah, I hope that this doesn't negatively impact our friendship. And I hope that I do have many more opportunities to redeem myself, starting with this podcast. So yeah, should we talk about last night?
Yeah, let's dive right in. And I think it's a great opportunity to share something vulnerable and also see how we can actually consciously approach situations like this, which I'm sure many women and men resonate with. Okay.
So I guess we'll start with what the intention was last night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Bibi was visiting Miami for, I think, 3 days, right? And we had spoken about doing a session together because you have a lot of gifts and unique talents that you share with your clients and students all over the world that include...
Yeah, private sessions and deeper dives in person.
Right. Yeah. And this is all about kind of sensuality, building intimacy, like creating that deeper connection with yourself so you can bring that energy to your partner.
Yeah, like erotic intelligence and how to, what are different ways of creating safe and intimate space? What are different ways of interacting sensually, energetically, et cetera, et cetera. So it can go so many different directions.
Yeah.
And I love Jeremy because he is the one who always likes to learn and grow and is curious. And it was like, Bibi, you're in town. I want to learn. I want to grow as a lover. I want to learn from you. So why don't we have a session and combine it with the opportunity to have this podcast interview?
Exactly. Which was uncomfortable for me to even ask you. It was out of my comfort zone because, like I said, I really have a lot of love and respect for you as a friend. And I was like, okay, if I ask Bibi to do a session, is that going to somehow like shift the dynamic with our friendship? You know, I've never done this before. So there's a lot of resistance coming up for me. And just like I'll tell anyone I'm working with, if you feel that resistance, you need to lean into it and you need to take action. That's what the resistance means. Whenever you're feeling that like discomfort, it's usually a sign like, okay, this is something I need to do because it's going to help me evolve and grow into a better version of myself. So we agreed like, hey, we're going to just flow with the session when you're in town. And basically you got here Tuesday. Tuesday was kind of like a busy day for both of us. And Tuesday night, you're like, all right, tomorrow night, we're going to meet. You're going to come to my place at 9 p.m. And for a couple hours, we're just going to explore. And you mentioned stuff about like potentially a breast massage and other things, right? And so Wednesday comes, and my full intention is like, we're doing this. You asked me to bring like oat milk to make the chai, candles, etc. So I got those. And basically what happened, long story short, and this is very just me being very raw sharing this, is I was walking back from my hot yoga class. It's about 7 p.m. and I'm about to go home, shower, maybe do a little bit more work before we meet up. And I'm literally about to be at my building, and I walk past this girl who's really attractive, and we're just looking at each other like while we walk past each other. And literally it was like one of those eye gazes where it wasn't like, oh, like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, you're cute, whatever. It was like deeper than that. It was like it was more energetic, if that makes sense. So anyways, we start talking. She's walking to Whole Foods with her dog. I'm like, oh, I actually need to grab a couple things there. I'll walk with you. We start talking, and I mentioned that I'm going to do this session with you. And I give her the possibility of joining me to receive like the breast massage, which is an absolute ridiculous thing for me to do. I literally just met this girl 10 minutes ago, but I literally told her, I was like, this is so uncomfortable for me to ask, but I'm just going to feel into it. Like, I'm going to my friends to do this session, and I'm curious, like, if this seems aligned, like, are you open to receiving that? And you don't have to do anything if it feels unsafe or uncomfortable. And she's like, you know what? I just got back from this Mexico retreat. I had a Kundalini experience. Like, I think it's a sign. I'm open to do it. So she comes back to my place, and we're going to take an Airbnb, we're going to take an Uber to your place together. And
yeah, and I'm just going to give a context. I actually, when I work with men, I prefer a man to bring a partner or a woman so I can show them so they can practice on another woman rather than on me. So, just to give a context for people, and we talked about that, so that people don't think you were just trying to hook up with first person on the street. There was a conversation about that it is a little easier for me to teach you how to worship a woman's body when you have a partner.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I'm not even someone that if I see someone like attractive in the street, I realize that I actually feel resistance approaching them. This is a recent realization I had. Because a lot of the times when I connect with a woman, it's like at an event or something, and it's like, it's a very controlled environment, and it's almost like inbound, if that makes sense. It's like a DM that's inbound, or like someone approaching me. And I realized that I don't even know the last time I approached a woman. And that kind of made me feel like it's something I need to step into, not to hit on anyone, but just for my own confidence. And just like having the conviction to go up and start a conversation. So anyways, long story short, her and I are at my place. We like start fooling around a little. We get a little intimate, and the time is ticking. It's maybe like 9:30, 9:40. And I'm letting you know that like we're going to be coming there soon. Things between her and I like start to accelerate a little bit. And I look at the time and I'm like, oh, fuck, like Bibi's going to be so pissed. I think it was like 10 or 10:15. And I'm like, I'm going to turn my phone on airplane mode. And the way I was justifying this was like her and I were hooking up, and it was like very intentional, by the way. It was like, I was really working with my breath, and like, it was very gentle, sensual touching and eye gazing. And it was actually amazing. So my justification was like, all right, I guess I'm kind of doing this work with this girl instead of learning from Bibi. And yeah, I was with her till like midnight, and I went to bed, and I was just like literally I was dreading because I have so much respect for you, and I know you're like really fucking unapologetic, like you're not just going to be like, no, it's cool. It's like, And you've been very nice today. You've been very nice. And I felt a lot of guilt today. I felt a lot of guilt, and I was reflecting today, like, okay, why is all of this stuff coming up? Because yes, I was with this person, and that was the justification I used for not coming. But then I was like, how can I peel the layers back? Right? And I already had resistance to do a session. And so I was just journaling today, and I was like, there's something deeper here. And I was mentioning to you before we started recording that my biggest kind of blockage that I've had to work through is this fear of abandonment, you know, from being a child and my older brother, drugs and alcohol, and going a different path, and me just not realizing how much that impacted my life and how I approached relationships after that. And it was always very challenging for me to get too close to anyone, man or woman, by the way, because I just thought they would leave. So I was reflecting deeper, how does this show up in my relationships? And I've put myself in position to be in a relationship at times with a partner that I know at the end of the day, like, isn't my person, isn't my life partner. And I think subconsciously, one of the reasons why I've done that is because I feared abandonment. And when it relates to everything between us, I think, if I'm being honest, I was maybe scared that, like, I wouldn't do well in the session, or like I wouldn't show up in the most powerful way. And then I'm like, Bibi might judge me. Like, I swear, like, all this shit was coming up. It might sound crazy, but I'm just being very open. And it was something that I had to sit with at the end of the day. And I'm honestly, I just want to say it again, I'm really sorry, because I genuinely know that I have so much to learn from you. And I feel like I wasted this massive opportunity. So yeah, this is a very interesting way to start a podcast. But fuck it. That's the whole purpose of this show, is to just, hopefully by sharing like open and authentic stories, we empower others to do the same.
Yeah. No, beautiful. Thank you. And apologies accepted. And what was I going through on the other side? When things like this happen, when someone bails on you, they don't really even cancel, they don't keep their word, not with integrity. I have a choice. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to get upset and angry? Am I going to get maybe insecure about myself, or he doesn't value me enough? He's not respecting me. That is what always happens with men, and start making stories around it. Or what I choose, and what I also teach my clients, is first of all, sit with the emotion. And yes, I was sad and disappointed. And then give a conscious, loving feedback. So what I messaged you was like, hey, what happened is that we had a plan. It was you who requested the session. I made myself available. We had a plan, and you didn't show up. And not only that, you didn't even properly cancel. So stating facts, not opinions, but stating facts, right? All these are facts. And then letting you know how it made me feel. And it made me feel sad. It made me feel frustrated. It made me feel disappointed. I could have made another plan. I was only here for 3 days. And then after giving you the feedback, a request, what would be my request? That next time when we plan something, that you really show up, because, you know, there won't be enough, there will be not infinite number of chances that I'll give you to not show up and then forgive. And then I have a choice. And my choice is not to hold on to this anymore, and not to be upset with you today, or be angry, or give you some kind of a punishment style behavior, because that doesn't serve me. I have other things to do. I don't want to go around and holding on to resentment and frustration and anger. Feeling it, letting you know how I felt, giving you conscious feedback, and then moving on. So that is my approach. So apologies accepted. We're good. what I appreciate about you is that you looked into it, and I knew that there is something deeper, and I could feel your resistance. And I even said in the evening, Jeremy, there's no counseling because my intuition was telling me that, you will be subconsciously resisting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is a learning from this. And if we choose to see it this way, conflict and disagreement in situations like this can be such a powerful opportunity for growth and deepening the relationship, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's actually, on a macro level, really powerful lessons on both ends, right? I feel like one of the most important things for the masculine is to be your word, which I failed to do. And once that happens, obviously take ownership and do your best, do my best to like rectify the situation. And on your behalf, expressing how that experience made you feel, and also hopefully not harboring onto any resentment.
Yeah.
Because it would be very easy for you to be like, yo, fuck you, bro. And that podcast we were supposed to do, I think I'm just going to like chill at the beach. It's a beautiful day in Miami,
Yeah.
And there are many women and many people in general who would have taken that approach, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just, I think, a reflection of the inner work that you've done, that you're able to like internalize it and not take it so personally.
Totally.
And realize that it's more a reflection of me.
Yeah.
Which I think is also a powerful lesson, right?
Totally.
Because it's like, with the work you're doing, and we'll talk about this because this is your podcast, but I'm talking 90% of it so far. But it's like the work that you do, working with like sex and intimacy and being so open about it, and coming from the corporate world and coming from a place like Poland, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know like how much judgment and criticism did you deal with when you were making that transition initially from family, from friends, and how were you able to overcome that and ultimately just step into your purpose?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, yes, thank you for giving the context, because I do come from Poland, grew up in communism, and then decided to go into corporate world to make money, to travel the world, and kind of ended up in a soul-sucking job that I was never really passionate about. And it was so hard to leave the golden cage. For 15 years, I was stuck in it and I was too scared to leave. And when I initially did, actually, I think the biggest resistance came from my parents, who just wanted the best for me. And my dad always wanted me to fulfill his dreams, or either be a manager or a lawyer or a doctor. But other than that, there wasn't actually that much resistance or judgment. I think people around me, all kind of deep inside, really wanted to quit their soul-sucking jobs and were too afraid to do it. And I was one of the first ones in my circle. So it was like a permission slip, and everyone was asking me, how did I do it? What are the tips I have? How to do this first step, which is the most scary. And then when I discovered conscious intimacy and I started exploring this topic and stepping into the role of being a conscious intimacy teacher and guide and facilitator, many people think that I was met with judgment or criticism. Actually, the opposite way. People would come to me after dinner and was like, you know what you talked about, I am actually so curious about this, and I have been having troubles in my marriage. I have been going through this. I haven't been orgasmic for years, or I don't really know how to tap into my body, my pleasure. So many people are resonating with this topic, and so many people have challenges that they don't have. They don't have a place to express it. They don't have anyone to talk about that, or they didn't necessarily know where to find information about it. It's only recent years that there is so much podcasts and books and resources about this topic. But when I was starting, there were really much less. So people were so curious. Everyone was asking me for more. Everyone was texting me, after those dinners or meetups. Hey, I was really interested what you were talking about and I want to know more. So not that much judgment or criticism, really.
Yeah. And if there was perhaps judgment and criticism, I feel like you're the type of person that would have had the courage and resilience to just stay on the path,
Yeah.
And
I am committed, and I usually, I'm quite confident and committed. And when I believe something, hey, I come from East Europe. I'm just like this East European warrior. There is a strong archetype of East European warrior I have. So I go for it. I don't give up easily, and I don't get offended easily. Yeah.
Which I resonate with, because being Jewish, oftentimes we're told that it's doctor, lawyer, accountant, or failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And my dad was a doctor for over 40 years. And I kind of just carved my own path, like personal training, got into nutrition, got into breath work, then got into plant medicine, and like just went on this own unique journey. And I think what's beautiful about the life that you've created and the life that I'm creating, I'm not quite at your level yet, Bibi, is that we're living life on our own terms, and we're literally living in alignment with our soul's purpose. And that is the greatest gift that you can give yourself and the collective consciousness. When you actually take time to identify what your uniqueness is, what your soul's calling is, and then you share that with others around you. And there's nothing that's more magnetic than someone who's living a life on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's just inspiring to witness that. Like, do you have any advice for someone who is maybe listening, watching right now, and like they're kind of in that 9-to-5 lifestyle right now, but they know that they were meant to do something bigger? They knew that they know that they have something great inside of them, but like you said, they are addicted to comfort and safety that job might provide them.
Yeah, no, and not just that. I actually realized that we are programmed to make ourselves small throughout the whole education system. I have 3 master degrees in finance and banking. And,
oh, shit.
Yeah, some of the best ones in Europe too. And at least back then, I don't know, maybe it has changed a little bit since then, but I was never really taught how to be entrepreneurial. I was taught how to pass the tests well. I was taught how to work well for someone. And I did not really learn to be an entrepreneur and to follow my dream and to go for what I want at any of those schools.
What was the thing that awakened you sexually, that was the light bulb moment that was like, oh my gosh, this is something that I need to start sharing with the world?
Yeah, so first of all, let's just, I'm going to come back to the fact how I ended up with the corporate world, because it was just so soul-sucking that none of the distractions were working anymore. Not one night stands, not traveling to the best parties in the world anymore, not even, back then I was in Brazil, not even flying on private jets to private islands.
Damn, baby.
With friends. I was like, okay, so this is how it looks like to be rich after working your ass off for maybe, 20, 30 years, or maybe not even, right? Because to get to a place where you have a private plane and private island, I'll probably would never get there being on a corporate job, but I would always run after it. Okay, I have an experience. I have a possibility to experience that through someone else's generosity, but I can see it's not what's going to make me happy. So what will? And it was just such an overwhelming question. I got into my mini midlife crisis and really just like lost my mojo. And that was just so painful that I could not stay within my comfort zone anymore. And I booked my first ayahuasca ceremony.
What year was that?
2012.
Okay,
Yeah.
2012. And I want to dive into that experience, but I think it's really important what you mentioned about like reaching this point where the pain was so great that you had to take action.
Yeah, I had to take action.
And sometimes like, I think pain is a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful symbol of like, all right, shit is clearly not working. Yeah. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not feeling inspired on a daily basis. Yeah. I need to shift something. And I compare it to like, you're in the kitchen right now, right? And it's trying to make a new recipe, but you have the same ingredients.
Yeah.
If you want to shift your reality, you got to shift the ingredients too.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you did. So 2012, ayahuasca experience. Yeah. Let's talk about that shit. I don't think we've ever talked about it.
Oh, it was the end of the world in the Mayan calendar. Remember?
Oh, wow.
2012.
Yeah.
December. And my friends who were in a similar situation, one particular friend, and she told me, listen, it's the end of the world. There's all this spiritual community that's going to gather. You should do ayahuasca. You should do San Pedro. I was in the same spot and it helped me to find answers and clarity. And I was like, okay, I was so desperate and I had nothing to lose. Let's book a trip. I booked a trip to Tulum, to Riviera Maya. I booked my ayahuasca session. And I love this part of the story because the medicine started working before I even took it. And my company that I was working for forgot to extend my visa. And they wanted to take my passport away for a week, a day before my trip. And I said, no, you forgot. You screwed up, guys. I'm not giving you my passport. I'm going. And they had to fire me. And because they had to fire me and the laws in Brazil are such that they protect the employee, they had to pay me for a year. I really wanted to quit, but number one, I was too scared. And number two, if I would quit myself, I wouldn't get a penny. And this happened. And not only they helped me, they fired me, but they also had to pay me for a year. And on top of that, they said, we're really sorry. Why don't you go to Mexico? And we are actually going to start the process of the visa. And once we get the new visa, we're going to then bring you back. So I even had that option.
Okay, like a backup option, but you never went back.
Wait, just no, I never.
Was that a pick or a scratch?
No, there was the hair that is cut it out. Okay, that was just.
No, we're not getting that, Bibi. That's authentic.
No, yeah,
it's authentic.
So no, I never went back.
Okay,
never went back. But
so
that was how the medicine just literally, like when I finally opened to change and to taking action towards that change instead of just complaining, because that's what I did for a year, complaining and bitching about my situation and being a victim. The moment I started doing something about it, things started to align and come my way. Yeah.
We were just talking about like how living on purpose is very magnetic. I think the opposite of that is being in victimhood.
Yeah.
And so you take ownership of this situation, 2012, you have an experience in Tulum with ayahuasca, San Pedro. What was the biggest download that you experienced during that journey?
Oh, there were so many, but I'm just going to mention one. I remember that song that the facilitator was singing, and it talked about a butterfly that sat on her arm, and it had a hole in its wing. And then she sang, you don't have to be perfect to fly. And you know how it is in ayahuasca, it doesn't just land on the understanding and logical level. You just feel this message with your whole being. And it took me 15 years to leave the corporate world because I never believed I'm good enough to start something else or be an entrepreneur or start my own project or even get a different job. And I would always postpone till I maybe find out, till this happens, that happens, till I earn enough money, till I save this amount, whatever was, the reason. And yeah, this was like, no, you're ready. You don't have to be perfect to fly.
That's such an important download, by the way.
Yeah, I remember this till today.
Because I think also we're both kind of in a similar space in regards to healing, right? Helping being a vessel for others to heal and tap into their full potential. And one of the things that I see oftentimes is people thinking that they need to be fully healed to start like creating a brighter future for themselves.
Yeah.
And I feel like what I've learned in my journey is that there's always going to be healing to do. like
Always.
literally last night, opened up a new portal for me to like sit with, right? And now it's like, okay, there's more opportunities for me to kind of address these emotional wounds that still might be lingering, but that's not going to stop me from continuing to show up in my purpose every day and help impact others. All right, so Black Friday is almost here, and I wanted to bless all of the podcast listeners with a very special gift. Okay, this is your treat for tuning into the podcast. Now, for joining our Microdosing Mastermind monthly membership, you are going to receive one of these as part of your welcome package. All right, so for just $222, not only are you gonna get the microdosing capsules, not only are you gonna have access to my live coaching calls every single week, you're also gonna receive one of these high dose sex chocolates. All right, we never make these available, but honestly, I thought it was so appropriate for this episode with Bibi to give you the opportunity to heighten your intimacy, to deepen that connection with yourself and your partner. So this is a very limited time offer. It's going to be available for the next 72 hours. Hit the link in the show notes to reserve your spot in this Black Friday offer. And I can't wait to see you on our first live coaching call. Let's get it. You had this download that like this, you know, butterfly with a broken wing or a hole in the wing could still fly.
Yeah.
And una mariposa, I think, right? In Spanish.
That's right.
So did anything come up regarding like the work that you're doing now in that ceremony? Like, did you experience a lot of somatic things regarding like movement and energy in your body?
No, it wasn't till later that I was in a different session. I kind of followed the journey of self-exploration, and I wasn't in the corporate world anymore. I was free. So I went to India to Osho Ashram. I went to do landmark type of course. I went to do different ceremonies and all kind of workshops and sessions. And I ended up on another session where I experienced my first full body orgasm. And that's where the energy shoot up and I could really feel something that I never felt before, or the closest I would probably describe it to actually an experience of ayahuasca, but without the medicine. Just tapping into your own energy. Something shoot up. I kind of experienced this infinite bliss and peace and connection to God, universe, that I've never did before. Mm-hmm. And that was that before and after moment. And yeah, that was what the facilitator described as a full body energy orgasm. And that energy remained activated. And all my experiences, intimate experiences, started to be super energetic. I wasn't even doing anything. I wasn't trying anything. I didn't even understand cognitively what was actually happening exactly. But the energy was moving and I started to experience those full body, cosmic, orgasmic journeys when intimate. What
was that session that triggered that? Like, what type of session was it?
Mm-hmm. It was a session by Sasha Cobra called Orgasmicness as Healing Modality.
Wow. Okay. I think she was in a Netflix thing, right?
Yeah, she was.
Awesome.
That's right.
Oh, cool.
And she actually showed a similar work in the episode of, I forgot the name. Unwell.
Okay.
Unwell.
The musician?
No, the series was called Unwell.
Okay. I'm curious to know, like, that full body orgasm that you experienced. Mm-hmm. What is, I guess, number one, what is the number one thing blocking women from accessing that? And then what would you say is the number one thing a man can do to help a woman access that?
So to say what is the number one thing, it's really limiting. There are so many things that are blocking us. So let's start with the fact that we don't feel safe. The number one ingredient to experience something like that is really full trust and ability to let go and surrender. And we don't feel safe as women in this planet, and especially when it comes to a context of sexuality, even less, right? So you as a man creating a safe space And I know it maybe sounds a little obvious or cliche, but it's not. And I actually, from my experience, observed that it's very few men who know what does it even mean to create safe space.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I don't want to limit it to 3 things, but what are the first things that come to mind when it comes to a man creating that safe container for a woman to go deep?
Your presence. So really being present, not being here with an agenda that you want something, that you want to get to an orgasm, that you want to get her in bed, that you want to get into her pants, because we can feel that, right? But can you really be present and open to whatever will unfold? And maybe you are going to end up making love, but maybe not. And can you remain with the same quality of curiosity, kindness, interest, knowing that it might go in a different direction? So being fully present, being genuinely curious about where she's at, right? How does she feel? What is alive for her? What are her desires?
And this goes beyond just sexually.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
But we, of course, because I do what I do,
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on that. What are some of the boundaries, or what are some of the places she is not open to go? And really honoring that, not trying to, so many women share with me that, but what if, and what if you change your mind, and can we do that? Or what about this? And trying to kind of manipulate or negotiate or talk her into doing something that she is not open to, right? Another thing, going really slow. This can be so healing to the nervous system. And not just even going slow, but going at a pace that she can actually ask for more. I had once one of my teachers say that as a man, you want to worship your woman's body to a point that she's begging you to enter. And then you want her actually to beg 3 times. And only then you know that she's really, really ready. So really going so slow that she has an opportunity to yearn for more. And that yearning for more is such a rare feeling, because usually we go so fast that we don't even give a space for the yearning and the longing. So going slow and really listening on hearing. We were on the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
No, I think
English. Hearing is more than listening, right?
No, listening is deeper. Because I might hear what you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But did I actually listen with presence to what you're trying to communicate to me?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, because we're so distracted, we're just hearing things. We're hearing noise. We're hearing external things, but we're not actually tuning into listening.
Yeah. So really listening to her and observing her body language, observing her responses, right? Observing her energy, because sometimes, again, women are afraid to communicate what they truly want, or they're afraid to say no. So can you see beyond the obvious, and can you really feel her?
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack. So,
and one more thing I can say is also, you can even say it. You're safe with me. I'm here for you. I'm here for all of you. Now, the trick is that it's not enough to say it. You really need to be it. Yeah. And
so
you'll feel that. And if you are able to show up with an integrity and really be that, not just say it, what a beautiful way to help her feel safe.
That is, That is really valuable. So I wrote down, I think you gave pretty much like 5 things, right? For a man to really make a woman feel safe. You said presence, curiosity, moving slow, listening deeply with intention. And the 5th one was
telling her that she's safe with you.
Yeah. And then backing that up with your actions. I think that's really powerful. I think there's definitely a couple of those that when you said, I was like, ooh, I can definitely do a better job of that, you know? And like when I was talking with Adam a couple weeks ago, you know, he was talking about these karmic wounds that the masculine and feminine have. And oftentimes the deepest karmic wound that the feminine has is that I'm going to be too much. Like if I express all of myself, right? The messy parts, the light, the dark, like it's not going to be fully received with that safety. Or if I communicate my boundaries and I communicate my truth, then it's going to create that separation. And I think what you mentioned in regards to just like really speaking up and feeling safe to activate your throat chakra and like, hey, I like this, I don't like this, and I might like that. I might be open to it, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple, the things you said, but those are really challenging skills to cultivate.
Yeah.
And embody.
They are. And, you know, we live in such a world that is just so fast. Everyone is just busy. Everyone has this excuse that we don't have time to go slow. We don't have time to connect deeply. And let's take time because it's worth it.
Yeah. How much would you say most people's sexual experiences are very outcome based? It's like, right? It's about finishing. It's about having you come before me. You know, it's about making sure that this happens, and it's almost results based rather than focusing on the experience and the journey and the foreplay and the energy.
I would say it's probably 99.9%. And we talk about this a lot, but mainly coming from pornography, right? Which is done by men, for men, not to educate, but to entertain. And it has a lot of masculine qualities that are not really necessarily healthy when translated into sexuality, right? It's very goal-oriented. It's very action-oriented. It's very performance-driven. And yeah, and it's not necessarily, this is what makes it exciting on the screen. But this is not necessarily how it works in practice.
I'm actually really curious to know, like the couples that you work with, how many of them is it often that you hear maybe the wife or the girlfriend complain or mention that their partner has an issue with porn? Is that something that constantly comes up or not so much?
It does not necessarily come up in a way that they are watching too much porn or addicted to porn. But what comes up is that, yes, there are so many behaviors that are really deeply ingrained that come from pornography that men don't want to let go of.
What would you say is an example of that?
For example, that that we don't have enough time for foreplay, or foreplay is not important or needed, or that emotional connection is something extra, but not really understanding that woman really needs that. She really needs to feel seen and heard and understood and intimately connected on a heart level with a partner in order to open up her yoni. That a foreplay, long foreplay, is the key. That she needs to be a full yes for the entry, and that it takes time, and that literally it takes 40 to 45 minutes for a woman to become fully aroused. And there is a lot of resistance to that. And everyone's like, we don't have time for this. We don't feel like it. We just want to come in quickly, release. Can we just have a quickie? Do we really need to do this every single time? And so on and so on. It's very, it takes a long time to shift that narrative.
Do you think, I think porn has impacted men and women in the way that I almost think like women go into experiences with men just thinking like they just want to fuck the shit out of them. Right?
My experience is different, that they usually start to feel guilty or that they become insecure, thinking that there's something wrong with them because they're not always a yes for entry. They take forever to relax. They take too long to come. They don't come often enough. That they are not exciting enough in bed. That they're not just spontaneously ready for lovemaking every time their partner wants it. And they internalize it and they start to believe that truly there is something wrong with them.
Yeah.
So this is what I come across the most often.
Don't you think that's also the case with men though? Like having those same insecurities?
It's so funny because yes, I also work with a lot of men and especially with a lot of couples, right? And then men are like, yeah, we also have this pressure to perform. And then I ask them both to write down independently, what does it mean for them to perform, right? And then what they realize that it's a completely different thing that they are actually wanting. And it's completely different thing what we think we should be performing and what the other partner really desires.
I'm going to take this thing out. Just because. Anyways, that experiment didn't go well. I think at the end of the day, a majority of men and women want the same thing. We crave that deep, intimate connection. And sometimes we just don't really know how to initiate that. And I know one of the things we were talking about before we started recording is like the initiation of men that you assist with.
Yeah.
So what does that look like to you?
Yeah. So if you will follow me on Instagram, you probably heard the stories, but what I tell women, because it usually starts with women, right? Most of my clients are women. They're more open to start exploring the topic of sexuality by themselves, et cetera, et cetera. They're usually the first ones. And what I tell them is if you crave a certain type of intimacy, certain quality of lovemaking, you need to take it in your own hands. You need to create situations, scenarios that you bring this soul-nourishing connections and lovemaking. Instead of waiting for a perfect lover, waiting for a conscious masculine partner, waiting for a king on white horse to save you. Create it yourself, especially that, again, I feel like we have this beautiful gift as the feminine of being the priestess who really opens the door for the masculine to this type of conscious intimacy experiences. So I like to say that we have this superpower to initiate men into conscious lovers for us. Also, each of us is different. We all have different turn-ons and desires, and we like things to be done in a different way. So what does it actually even mean to attract a great lover, right? It will be a different definition for each of us. So initiate a man into a best conscious lover for you.
Yeah, we should touch on the blueprints in a bit, in a sec, if that's cool.
Yeah.
I know you've talked about it a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So let me just add a few more things on what does it mean to initiate a man, because I actually have been going through a process. I am now, life sent me back to my homeland, to my hometown that I left more than 20 years ago, where I don't really have any friends. I am there with my dad, who is slowly transitioning. And I was really complaining that there's not enough conscious men in my hometown, that I don't even have a way to meet them, et cetera, et cetera. And I met an interesting man in the gym. That's the only place I go. And we met a couple of times, and I asked, would you like to become my conscious lover? I'm going to guide you. And he's like, yes, I'm ready. I'm super curious. I'd love that. So I shared the story on my social media as it was progressing. And it's been really, really beautiful. It's been 5 months that we have been seeing each other. And he has been amazing. And it's so beautiful to see that there are men who are curious, who are willing to learn, who are not intimidated by that, who actually appreciate being guided. He loved the fact that for the first time, he doesn't have to organize all the dates. He doesn't always have to think what we're going to do. It's not all in his hands, that actually someone is giving him tips what to do and guiding him and bringing some beautiful rituals and practices that he has never done. So many times he has sent me a message, Bibi, thank you for a magical night. I have never experienced something like that. I had no idea about those things. And the fact that you're guiding me is so beautiful because I don't have to worry if I'm doing it right. You're so clear about what you want to receive, how it feels, if the pressure is right, if what I'm doing is landing, that it just makes me feel more motivated and more inspired and more empowered. So for all the women listening, thinking that it's really hard to come across and that men will be intimidated by you, or when men would run away, or they will not be interested, and all these stories that we tell ourselves, not true. There are men who are ready to receive it and who are actually appreciating to receive that guidance. And yeah, so.
Yeah. It's wild, Bibi. You know, when I was 13 years old, I got bar mitzvahed. And they told me that was my initiation to become a man. But obviously it wasn't. And I actually think there's very few things, especially in the Western culture, that actually initiate a man. That's why I'm such a big fan of things like ice baths and like psychedelics and, you know, doing these things that are challenging because they force you to step into this potential that you're not even aware you have. And the stuff that you're talking about, like, triggers so much stuff for me, really, because, you know, for instance, like if I'm being intimate with someone, especially like early on in our connection, I'll like to ask like, do you enjoy this? Like, is this like too much, too little, etc.? And I think still there's that balance, and it obviously requires safety and like connection to elevate to that level of just being able to express your needs and desires. Because I think, especially as men, there's like a lot of ego involved in intimacy. And like, if someone comes to you, your partner comes to you and says like, you know, I'm not feeling that connected sexually, or like, I want to dive deeper with our intimacy, it's like being able to receive that feedback constructively, consciously, without getting triggered, like I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I think is valuable for both like the masculine feminine dynamic, is like being safe to express your needs and desires and also being able to receive that without feeling like you're insignificant or not good enough, and using it as a signal or using it as a launching pad for just stepping into the unknown and becoming better.
Yeah.
So this is opening up a lot. This is why I wanted to have the conversation, because I feel like I'm stepping into like a new level of myself where there's so many things in the past that I wouldn't share openly or have conversations about. And I feel like this next chapter for me is all about just radical honesty and openness and really just sharing my struggles, sharing my challenges with the intention that hopefully someone out there listening and watching can benefit from my vulnerability. So, you know, I really think it's valuable what you're sharing.
Yeah. And there's few things to it, because comments that I often get when I talk about initiating a man is this resistance from women saying, oh, that means you're constantly in your masculine by telling him what to do and guiding him. And are you not screwing up the polarity? Is this not, you know, gonna is this just not gonna destroy the polarity and take him out of his masculine? And I don't believe so. So there's few elements to that. Number one, how am I doing it? Am I just telling him what to do, or am I seducing him into the ways I would like to this intimate connection to go? Or am I inviting him, or am I being playful? And I definitely rather do the latter, right? I also make sure that I really appreciate him every time he does things well, and every time he is learning fast and really listening and really implementing. My Lord, how many times did I tell him, wow, you are an amazing student. I'm so impressed. It's such a pleasure and fun to play with you. And then also, for example, allowing him to bring the masculine structure to this. So he would pick me up for each date. And at the beginning, he would also bring me home after each date. He would prepare the space. We were going to his apartment. It was always beautifully clean. He would buy flowers and put them, and just make the vibe the way I like it.
No cockroaches, no hair in the sink.
No hair in the sink.
Okay, good. Just checking. Because, I heard some guys these days just don't really know how to keep their space clean.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then what also happened, and it was so beautiful, I taught him how to give me a yoni massage. And then a few weeks later, it's like, I want to invite you and I want to surprise you with something. And he prepared the space exactly the way I love it. And it's like, I would love to gift you with a yoni massage. And he remembered all the moves. And there's about 35 moves that I teach in my video. And I was like, wow, did you check in the video? Did you went back and studied all the moves? And he said, yes, I did. I prepared. And I could just feel how much pleasure he had from the fact that he has learned it. It was totally all new for him. How much pleasure he had in giving me pleasure and seeing me enjoy so much. And I had infinite number of A-spot and cervical orgasms and energy orgasms. And yeah, it was just so beautiful. And then the roles shifted. And I was the one who surrendered into my feminine, and I fully trusted him by then. And he was the one giving and leading. So again, the roles switched, and there is this beautiful dance that we started to co-create.
So all of those orgasms that you experienced in that moment, that evening, there's no penetration.
No, there was no penetration.
That's really important to understand, I think.
Yeah.
And because I think that's where a majority of the focus is when it comes to sex and intimacy, is the actual penetration.
Yeah.
And I think what's really beautiful about the stuff that you teach is so much of it is actually everything leading up to that.
And actually, I prepared so many dates, and it was 2 months before we said that we are actually ready to penetrate. 2 months.
Wow.
And then I'm also going to be vulnerable. So we were like, okay. I said, yeah, I'm ready for us to move into penetration. So it was like, yeah, let's do the tests. We did the tests, and I had a bacterial infection. So I had to, take care of that, and then do another tests, and then we were both traveling, and then this and then that. And it took us another 2 months till I got clear results. So he waited for 4 months. And you know what's so interesting? He told me the following. If you would have told me when we met that you are going to make me wait to penetrate you for 4 months, I would laugh at you and say, I'm definitely not in. And I also didn't realize that I am actually so sensual. But through those several months and of us exploring soft touch and this sensuality and just interacting also on an energetic level, I actually realized I'm so nourished from that I'm not desperate or really missing the penetration so much. And that is another surprise for me. So that was really, really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. There's a couple of things that come up when you say this. This is why I love these podcasts, by the way, is because I think the best way to approach them is like, I have a couple notes of like talking points and subjects that I want to make sure we touch on. And when we're just in the flow of conversation, things naturally just arise and awaken these new topics and awaken these new tangents. So
maybe, this is a beautiful opportunity, because I'm sure women who are listening are like, okay, I'm so curious, what were those dates about? How did you design this journey? And what did you take him through? And we can combine this answer with what you wanted to touch on, which is a little bit erotic blueprints, right?
All right, I hate to interrupt this epic conversation, but if you are enjoying this podcast right now, it would mean the absolute world if you could leave a review wherever you happen to be listening, whether that is YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. Honestly, word of mouth is my oxygen, and we want this message to go out to as many people as possible as we raise the collective vibration of humanity. So please take 8 or 9 seconds to just leave 5 stars, say some nice words, and now let's get back to the show. Yes. And one of the things that I literally wrote down as we were talking about this is just the way that you approach dates and how to really cultivate connection early on in a relationship. Because I think pretty much, we're in Miami right now, right? And I don't think it's that much different in other big cities in the world. It's like the first date is like dinner. It's like going out. It's doing all of these things that don't actually facilitate deep, meaningful conversation and connection.
Yeah.
It's more about just like, let's do this thing. And you see a lot of, from what I hear, a lot of girls on these apps here literally are on these apps and they're going to nice dinners every single night with a different dude. Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm curious to know because I would love to know, like you mentioned, kind of the setup of these dates and how they kind of evolved over time.
Yeah, so first date, I never go on a dinner for a first date. I like to meet during the day, and I don't want it to be a long time commitment, because if it's not flowing, I don't want to feel stuck. So I usually meet over matcha, and that is what we did. Meet during the day, in the daylight, over matcha.
Okay.
And what I loved, I actually really go fast into deep questions. What you're passionate about, what is your biggest fear, what are you most proud of in your life so far, et cetera, et cetera. But what I really appreciated about this particular gentleman, that he actually went from my Instagram and listened to several of the videos. It was totally new to him, but he was really curious. And he actually had really insightful questions about what I do and some of the things he heard in different reels. So it was a beautiful conversation. And it was a 2-hour date. And then I like dinners, but it's not my favorite thing. I wanted to take it a little deeper. So we decided we're going to go to his place.
Okay.
Because I'm staying with my dad. And I set him up to win. So I know that I am a sensual, erotic blueprint. So the environment and setting are really important for me. Like the place needs to be clean. It needs to be cozy and vibey. I ideally want books and art and plants. And I want to enter and feel the vibe. Because if I don't, it's a big turnoff for me. So I was like, okay, I knew nothing about the guy. So I was like, you know what? I am going to set him up for success. And I have sent him a list of things of how to prepare to receive me. And there were lilies that smell beautifully, which were my favorite. Candles. Make sure the apartment is clean. I'd love you to have oat milk so we can do sacred chai. We both don't drink alcohol. So I love all this kind of aphrodisiacs. Some incenses, etc., coconut water, kombucha. So I made a whole list and he loved it. He bought everything on the list. Actually, his apartment was really clean, really beautiful. So it was just nice to see that it just added a little bit more of a feminine touch.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
That I think is really important. Number
Jeremy,
one,
for this list, I should send you this list as well.
for sure. No. And here's the thing. Here's the thing when you're mentioning this. Brother, can you maybe grab like water if it has to come from, yeah, that's fine for now. You're mentioning these things of you making these requests for your man. And I think something that a lot of women don't understand is that a majority of men really want to please their woman. Like, I think there's a lot of women under the impression that like if they ask for something or make a request, that like the dude is gonna say no and like get triggered by it. In my experience, most of the men, all of the men that I surround myself with, like we want to provide the best experience for our woman. And sometimes we don't know how to do that, right? And sometimes, yes, we do need a little guidance. And I promise for any woman listening to this, like if you actually communicate your needs and desires to your man, almost every time, if it's a good, kind man, they will want to make all of those things a reality for you.
Yeah.
And I just feel the need to express that because I think a lot of times going back to it, like there's a disconnect in the communication. And, you know, it's like as a man, you know, for me, sometimes I get so caught up in like my mission and what I'm doing. And like, I'm not the most present sometimes. And maybe I'm not listening as well as I should. And with all of that being said, I still fucking care.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from like my love. And sometimes I think there's men also in that same experience where it's like, if we would have just had a little guidance, and yes, ideally we would intuitively just know everything that you're desiring. And sometimes we just need a little support.
Yeah. And you know what? This is exactly what he said. He told me he loved the list. He didn't have to stress about, oh my God, this experienced woman is coming over. Am I ready? What do I need to do? And this made him feel really prepared and at peace. And this was the same thing he shared with me. Like, I really want to bring you the most pleasure. I really want to receive you like a queen. I want to do my best. So setting up your partner to win is such an amazing support and inspiration. And then he even was like, you know what? I never bought white lilies. They smell beautiful. I want to buy myself those flowers now all the time. And how amazing is that? And it's so funny because from so many women, I hear the following, well, if I have to tell him what to do, this doesn't count. If I have to tell him to buy me these flowers, that doesn't count. I don't think that. I think you really want to do everything to set up your partner to win.
Yeah. And like, maybe it's just that first time that that communication needs to be made. And then it's like, okay, now I understand deeply what you desire and like what makes you feel safe and what makes you feel like most at home.
Yeah.
So now I know I can provide that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And something else that you mentioned, and I apologize if I'm interrupting you. Something else that you mentioned that I think also most men, including myself, really appreciate.
Tell me.
Is when you acknowledge and appreciate us.
Yeah.
And I don't even think my top love language is words of affirmation, but it just feels good to hear from your partner, like, I'm proud of you. Or, you know, I see you. You know, things might not be perfect, but I can see you're making an effort. I can see that you care. And a lot of times I think things can shift to like the shortcomings, what you're not doing, right? But it's crazy how far one compliment can go.
Yeah.
One expression of gratitude, you know?
I'm really big on that. I always teach my clients, appreciate if there is just one thing that worked, make sure to point it out. And when the lovemaking session was maybe a little bit too fast or too hard, point on this one moment when you paused and when you looked me slowly and deeply in my eyes I felt you with my whole body and soul and heart.
Yeah.
It was so deep. Let's be honest. He will remember, right?
Yeah.
How to encourage more of what you enjoy.
Something else, just from a linguistic standpoint, that I found to be very helpful when communicating is a lot of times we've been programmed to use the word but. It's like, hey, I really enjoyed that time having sex, but you could have done this much better. And it almost negates the first part of it.
Totally.
Right? So what I have trained myself to do is replace but with the word and. So it's like, hey, I really loved our time making love together. And next time, I would maybe like to spend a little more time in foreplay. I would like to spend a little more time breathing and really feeling each other's energy. And that way, you're not just negating the compliment.
Totally.
So really implementing this into my life, I think has helped a lot, replacing the word but with and.
Yeah.
And I think it can help a lot of people in terms of the way they communicate, you know? Yeah. Are you having fun, by the way?
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you told me, you're like, Jeremy, you know, I've done a bunch of these fucking podcasts. Like, I want to talk about some new shit. Like, I don't want to just talk about the same old.
Yeah.
So I want to know.
This story with the lover is very alive for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love sharing it. And actually, you know, I again shared some of it on social media, and I have literally hundreds of women writing me about this. I have women on the streets stopping me. I was in Amsterdam and other ladies, I follow you, and how is your Polish lover doing? And then I have women from London, like all over the world, writing me how they're cheering up for this, you know, man from my hometown to become my conscious lover. It was so beautiful. The response really, really surprised me. And it just tells me that women want this empowerment, this permission sleep and inspiration and tools so they can also create more nourishing scenarios for themselves.
Were you sharing that on your story mostly, or were you like making a lot of posts about it?
I was making some reels after each date I would make.
Oh, really?
Real.
He was cool with that?
Yeah, as I did not mention his name, so he remains anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That also brings up something else where I was telling you, like when we were texting prior to you getting here, I was like, I feel like I have the ability to really embody what it means to be a masculine leader in terms of like living a life in alignment with my purpose, just being a good human and showing up in a powerful way for my future wife and my kids. And when I look around in real life and on social media, there's very few models of a relationship that I actually want to create in my life. You know, so when you tell me about like women cheering you on, I think genuinely people are just searching for examples of love. You know, we just saw Tom Brady and Giselle separate a couple years ago, which I know a lot of people were saddened by. And then you just hear Giselle's now pregnant with her new boyfriend. And you know, I'm not here to judge. I don't know either of them, but it's in a way, I don't know. For me, it's like kind of sad. It's like, yo, if they can't make this happen, like, is it possible? You know, my parents have been together 47 years and I'm super inspired by their marriage and relationship and connection. And it's not necessarily the marriage that I want to embody, right? So I think that's a big reason why you've been like getting all the cheers. Like, let's go, Bibi. Make this tatted Polish man with giant calves. Make him your conscious lover. Let him penetrate your soul. Let him penetrate your heart. Let him penetrate every cell in your body. God, I'm getting fucking jacked up just thinking about it. My God. Shit. It literally looks like, by the way, I'm looking at this studio and I'm like, bro, this is exactly the setup they probably have at like porn studios. Like they come to Miami, they got the OnlyFans, they got all the angles. Like, they got the balcony. Yeah, the balcony's a must. All right. Sorry. That's my ADHD kicking in. It's my ADHD kicking in. Gonna just take a breath if that's cool. Yeah. I'm curious to know, you mentioned the sensual archetype?
Blueprint.
The sensual blueprint. Would that be aligned with physical touch being my primary love language?
Yes and no, because it can also be a part of the other blueprints as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share something and then I want you to share the blueprints. So one of the things that really hit me deeply with this girl that I was seeing over the summer. And I can't remember what triggered it exactly. We're in Italy. We're on a boat and I'm just, I think, giving her like a shoulder rub or like some sort of massage or something. For me, physical touch is like very important. And not even sexually, just like little back rubs, back scratches, like just very soft touching for me, just like literally just awakens me. And it just makes me feel so loved and nurtured. So I like to also reciprocate that energy. And I don't know what triggered it, but she basically told me, this is after like 3 months of seeing her, like, you know, the physical touch like doesn't do what it does for you to me. And I just remember feeling so fucking low after she told me that for 2 reasons. I felt low because I'm like, how the fuck didn't I know this? I've been spending a lot of time with you. You know, how haven't I even had this conversation with you? How haven't I even been intentional enough to observe and really feel the energy? And it also just made me feel like, yeah, it just made me feel, I guess, like a lot, like worthiness came up, like a lot. I was like, damn, like she doesn't even enjoy physical touch with me. And that's not what she was saying necessarily.
No.
It was just saying like, it's how I received it. But I just remember that. And I was just like, there's very few times where someone's words have like impacted my nervous system.
Yeah.
And I remember when I heard it, I just remember my body fucking contracting like immediately. And like even just going back there, like I'm feeling it now, you know? So with that being said, I would love for you to just touch on the erotic blueprints and the importance of having a partner that's similarly aligned with those.
Although, yeah, we can also use them as a portal for growth into expanding into new territories we didn't even know that, you know, we would be into, right? So yeah, I love erotic blueprints. It's work that Miss Jaya did, and maybe you've seen her on the Goop series documentary with Gwyneth Paltrow. And I find her framework to be really so helpful and so genius. That's why I talk a lot about it. And I actually usually ask on one of the first dates, I ask guys, what blueprint do you think you are? Because some of them don't know. Some know. But those who don't, I explain what are the options. And I'm really curious. And yeah, there are 5 erotic blueprints. So I like to share where I'm at. And I'm a 30% sensual, 30% energetic, 15% kinky, which I didn't know at the beginning. And then the rest, very little sexual, actually. And then the shapeshifter, also a little, which is a combination of all 5.
What was the 4th one? Sexual?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So I think, you know, it definitely helps if you have a common ground and you are both either sensual or energetic. So there is a place you can start connecting through. And it's also nice to have someone who has, because we're a combination of all 5, right? It's also nice from my experience to have someone who has some of the blueprint you don't have and can help you and invite you into that exploration. And that is exactly what happened with one of my lovers who was sensual, kinky. I was mostly sensual, energetic. And we connected first on the sensual level and just had this beautiful 5 hour. Our first date was literally 5 hours long of gentle touching and soft kissing and yummy. And then we continued to see each other. And then he told me he likes to be kinky, if I would like to explore that. And I was really resistant. I was like, no, it's not my thing. And he was insisting, and he was like, have you actually tried any of the kinky practices or experiences in a kind of consensual, intentional, conscious way? And I'm like, no, I didn't. So how do you say you don't like it? It's like, I basically have a judgment that comes mainly from pornography, right? And I accepted the invitation. And we explored that and kind of combined kinky with sensual. I was like, ooh, I like that. And he definitely kind of opened the door for me to explore deeper. And that's what made me end up on a Tantra meets BDSM retreat and discover that I am actually 15% kinky. And I especially love to combine kinky with energetic or kinky with sensual.
Can you
Now, on the other hand, I'm just going to finish here. I introduced him to full body and energy orgasms, and he learned how to have a non-ejaculatory orgasm and started to have 30 of energy orgasms in a row. So I was the catalyst for him expanding into his energetic blueprint. So it was a really beautiful dynamic when really 1 + 1 became 5. And we were those catalysts of growth and expansion in the bedroom for each other.
Can you dive a little deeper into some of the kinks?
Yeah. So, for example, being tied up and sensually teased, or some of the simple things. What I really find attractive about him, that he has this quality of the dominant, and sometimes he would just do something very, very simple. We walk in the corridor, getting out of his apartment, and he would just pin me to the wall, look me in the eyes, and like almost kiss me, but not yet, and tell me that he can't wait to play with me at night, right? And just you could feel this desire and just being pinned by him to the wall and that penetrative gaze. So
damn, Bibi.
Rising. Yeah, so rising. And then what else? We got a little bit into spanking. I always thought spanking doesn't do anything to me. And I realized that I was just spanked by people who had no clue what they were doing. And neither did I. To their defense, neither did I. And like all of a sudden, bam, ouch, where's this coming from? I didn't ask for it. I don't even like it. And we didn't have a conversation about it. And someone thinks it's a great idea. And yeah, I learned how the whole art of spanking. And when it's done well, my Lord, it's juicy and arousing.
We're talking about slapping on the ass, I'm assuming?
You can spank in different places, but yeah, I especially enjoy the butt. There's so many pleasure nerve endings there. And yeah, you can kind of create a beautiful experience. A wave starts slowly and softly, then increase the intensity, then come down again to soft touch and caressing and maybe a kiss, and then bring a little bit more of impact again, and then have someone ask and beg for more. And, give them just a little bit. There is so much you can do with spanking. I'm
curious to know, because like for me, sensual and energetic sound very similar. What's like the key differences between those two?
They are not necessarily similar. So sensual, it's really indulging in all the senses, right? So okay. For example, as a sensual, I can get up out of the bed in the middle of lovemaking session and say, you know what? Give me a second. I have to change this song. I don't like it.
Or like light a candle or like, okay.
Or I would clean your apartment if I come over and it's not really to the standard that I want. And I would change the lighting situation and hang towels on top of the white lights in the hotel rooms and things like that. I really take a lot of time and pride in creating sensually stimulating spaces. And I want all the senses to really be ignited and nourished. And I can have, let's say, I can have an eargasm, I can have a kissgasm, I can have orgasms from a very light touch, from a breastgasm. I often have songgasms. When I go to a Ware concert, for example.
A what concert?
A Ware, one of my favorite artists. Check them out on Spotify. And they have these beautiful concerts where literally there are music gasms, and several women mostly are having music and songgasms, right? And
Wow.
yeah, or you can literally have a foodgasm as well from just tasting a really delicious chocolate or whatever that is, right? Energetic is really more this capacity to feel energy, feel a very, very subtle pulsation, electricity moving through your body, being able to cultivate it, expand it, move it, exchange it, and having ease into tapping into full body energy orgasms, having capacity to have those orgasmic experiences without any touch whatsoever. Often those energetic types really like all the things like rituals and breath and eye gazing and slowness and stillness and ceremonies, etc., etc. So yes, they can go nicely hand in hand together, but they don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're definitely, this has just like opened up new portals for me, because it's like stuff that because I remember seeing, what's her name? Jaya, at like Summit 2 years ago.
Yep. I was there.
And I remember like journaling about it and not diving so much deeper into it.
Yeah.
I think all of this, it's crazy how the flow of the universe works. Even last night when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe that actually needed to happen for me to even dive deeper into all of this, if that makes sense. And by the way, I hope it's not inappropriate to share this. Bibi came to the Standard Spa with me Tuesday night, and I was telling you, I was like, Bibi's got a booty. I'm like, okay, Bibi, I see you, girl. Shit. And I mean that in the most respectful
I own
way.
my booty. The compliment fully received. And yeah,
Well, that's,
I own it. And I also work hard on it. So
for me, as someone who is really passionate about health, fitness, etc., like when I see a girl with just a beautiful butt, it shows me that she is healthy. Like it shows me your ass, your glutes are the biggest muscle in the body. They help stabilize the core. They help stabilize the spine. So if I see a girl with a nice ass, not necessarily like a huge ass, I'm talking about like a nice solid booty, I'm like, wow, that is potentially a great breeder. Great future mother of my child. Why? Because she has a healthy body, healthy core, healthy spine. She cares about her health. Like, don't get me wrong, in Miami, you have a bunch of Latinas with big asses, but it's genetic. It's not necessarily built in the gym. So when
mine is partially genetic though. It's my grandpa. Partially.
Really? Is that a thing? You get your ass from your grandpa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
My
right.
grandpa was the one with the perky booty, but that's only part of the success. Then I also work out in the gym and I do a lot of booty exercises.
Yeah, you're doing amazing.
And I'm just sporty. I do million sports either way. So
Whatever you're doing, it's working. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Bibi. Okay. So I just thought I would acknowledge you for that.
great. Thank
Just
you. I'll
really-
take it. Especially that I'm well after 40. So I'm,
And the reason and it's not like when I look at you, I'm like, oh, Bibi doesn't have a nice ass. It's not that at all.
I know.
It was just like, you're very petite.
Yeah.
So it was like unexpected. I was like, Bibi,
Yeah.
Bibi got a booty. Anyways, so I want to actually transition this and we can go whatever direction you want. But we were talking about this idea that I mentioned to you before that I heard you speak about on a previous podcast, inner beauty and outer beauty, right? This whole idea, especially in a city like Miami. it seems like almost every single girl has lip injections, breast implants. And for me, when I see that from a non-judgmental space, right, this woman still could be absolutely beautiful and hot. And a lot of times I've realized that women do these things out of their own insecurity.
Totally.
Right? It's
it's a huge business. We are really made, from the very young age, we are really programmed into being insecure.
And I think that's a big reason why also we're seeing a lot of women when they get older get explants because they have more confidence in themselves. They feel more connected and aligned with their soul. And they're like, I don't need this external thing to make me feel more attractive, more sexy, more whole, more complete. Because I'm this divine goddess, right? And I think you embody this very well. I know, like you spoke about in the corporate world, like you were more kind of into the material things, the heels, like
tons of makeup, push-ups. I actually wanted to get implants. I was just too scared. It was too expensive in New York, but
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, me too.
And and I think it's a really important conversation to have for the women listening. My audience is like 75% women. And I personally, and I think most men, at least most men, again, I'm speaking about my circle of friends, right? Really feel an attraction towards like that inner beauty and that natural essence where it's like, yes, glam yourself up at night for dinner, like look sexy, wear all the things, put on the makeup, like do the really intricate designs with your mascara, like go for it. Like that can be sexy and hot and beautiful. And there's something just so beautiful about like a woman who owns her authentic essence without the need to like always put on makeup or always, wear clothes to be received by someone externally, but like just wear something that makes her feel connected to herself. And like when I look at you right now, I'm like, yeah, like this is a vibe. Right?
Yeah.
And I like that because for me, when I look at you right now, I just see someone who loves herself. I see someone who actually feels connected to herself. And I feel like at the end of the day, both women and men lack self-love, lack really that unconditional love for ourselves, which is why we're always searching for external shit to make us feel whole and complete, whether it's breast implants, whether it's lip injections, whether it's a dude just trying to flex with his watch or his Louis Vuitton backpack, whatever it may be. We live in a world that's constantly chasing things externally to make us feel whole internally. But the only way that we're going to achieve that is by doing the inner work of actually like cultivating that authentic love with ourselves. And I'm just curious, I know I said a lot, but like that journey for you.
Yeah. So I think first let's bring a little bit more compassion because this is what we are maneuvered into. This is how we're programmed since the early young age, right? We are always, this is how, consumerism and how so many products are sold, just making us believe that we are not whole, we are not enough. And we need, this heels and this dress, then we need this mascara and this cosmetics, we need this facial and that thing for our hair and this type of an expensive anti-wrinkle cream and that surgery and a laser on the hair and, it goes on. And to be honest, I also fall into many of those traps. Okay. And I'm not a saint and it's very strong and it's very, it's not so easy to totally resist that. But the story that I want to share in context to what you just said is how I got bashed on social media for body shaming. And the story was the following. On the journey of exploring conscious intimacy, I really realized the power of the breasts and how they are really the gateway for female sexuality. They are the portal as an extension of the heart. And it is the way to open a woman's heart and woman's body is really activating her heart and her breasts. And this is where we want to start. This is our positive pole in Neo-Tantra. We can actually experience breastgasms and nipplegasms, and I share a lot about that. And when I made the switch myself, because I used to hate my breasts, I always had small breasts. I always say that I got traumatized because boys at school called me ABC, which stood for absolute lack of tits in Polish. And I was slouching since the very young age. Then I wanted to really put implants. I was too scared. I found Victoria's Secret. I had triple padding and all these stories, right? And I didn't want to take the bra off on the dates because, you know, I had like a big B. And when I took it out, it was just, you know, a medium A. And I never even wanted men to go and touch my breasts, right? So going on this journey of reclaiming my breasts and realizing how important they are and how much pleasure they bring and how alive they are and how the whole experience for a woman changes when she starts to love her breasts and allows for them to be worshipped and stimulated. And then I witnessed it in hundreds of women, and I even did a course specifically on that. And I started posting about that, right? And I really, truly believe that breast implants are one of the most invasive procedures on energetic level for a woman. It really puts a plastic bag between your partner and you and your heart.
Wow.
And it really, you know, I know the doctors will say nowadays that there's a new technology, that the risk is very small and that you're not going to lose sensitivity, but that is not what I observe among my clients. And even other teachers in my space say the same thing. I don't know, about probably half of women lost sensitivity either partially or completely. And so many of my clients took the implants out because they had experienced either implants disease and literally headaches, migraines, immune system problems for like years and took the implants out, but also just, you know, lost the capacity to connect to this part of their body. And this is one of the most important parts. So when I started talking about that, I got so many comments from women saying that I'm body shaming them. And it was just so interesting to me, that reaction. And I said, listen, what I really want us to know is to be honest about the consequences of this surgery. Because truly, let's be honest, I know a lot of women are like, okay, I have really small breasts. It's going to make me feel better. And for some, it will work. But most of the time, this is just the beginning of a never-ending chasing story of improving yourself. And there will always be some next thing to fix. And also the risk is just simply too high. And it is very sad because you realize that 71% of women in our society don't like their breasts, right? It's ridiculous. And my intention with this was that every woman, before deciding to do a surgery, should be given a course where she's fully aware that the breast is a gateway to her sexuality, how sensitive and powerful this portal is, what it energetically means, learn how to love her breasts, how to make her breasts alive and sensitive and orgasmic. And is it my course? Is it other type of education? I don't care. But she should go through this process. And if still at the end of the process, she wants to do the surgery, then go for it. But not before. And women are just brainwashed into this talk that, oh, it's a new technology, non-invasive, and you're not going to lose sensitivity and this and that. And it's not necessarily true. And there is many other, again, energetic consequences to this. So this was my intention. Wow. But I was met with so much resistance. And yeah, it's so beautiful to see, Jeremy, how many women are now actually taking the implants out. And I even have women reaching out to me that they really followed me and went through my old page to be inspired before taking the implants out, because I fell in love with my small breasts and I made it a signature look to have the low cleavage, to free the nipple, to just really, be so confident with my small breasts and make it my signature look. And women shared with me, you were so inspiring and you look so sexy, so you look so attractive, that I studied your outfits to just feel into the idea that I can be attractive and sexy even after taking the implants out. So yeah, my intention is for women to have that empowered choice where they are really given all the information, where they're giving tools and practices to reclaim their breasts. And if at the end of that journey they still decide to do it, at least it was an informed decision. Not, a trend, peer pressure. I have so many women who said, my husband made me do it.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
It's crazy. I'm really happy that we're having this conversation, though. I'm really happy we're having this conversation. And I understand why women who have implants would be triggered by this conversation. And it's interesting. Like and my most recent partner actually had implants. And like, not like huge and like when I envision my, life partner, whatever, from a health perspective, I don't think I would want my wife to have implants. And just in terms of like breastfeeding and like you mentioned, that's something so important to just think about on an intuitive, energetic level. When you have breast implants and it's creating this separation from your heart, it's creating this artificial substance, right? Blocking that full connection to your heart chakra.
Yeah.
And how is that going to impact other areas of your life? How you can love yourself, how you can give love to others. I just think it's important to just ask the questions, right? Without casting judgment, without saying do this or don't do this.
Yeah.
But
I think we kind of, again, like with many things, we swing to the opposite end, and it's like, oh, now we just have to accept everything. And we have to say, yes, if everyone wants to just do 1 million plastic surgeries, let's embrace it and accept it. And is this really what we also want to teach our children? You do want girls to get nose jobs and boob jobs and lips injections at an age of 16 and 17 and 18? Where is this line in between, yes, let's embrace, let's accept, let's be inclusive, and the line between, okay, can we also be honest that this is not really nourishing most of the times, and it is playing with our psyche, and it's just never an end to it.
Yeah, it's really, I think one of the things, to be honest, triggering like this conversation, I feel like that is something, even though you're helping so many people all over the world doing what you're doing and teaching what you're teaching. I think this is an area to go even deeper in.
Yeah.
Because I was having this conversation with this 24-year-old beautiful girl in Israel, and literally 2 days ago, we're talking and stuff like that. And she's asking me, she's had implants, and she's asking me, she's like, I'm thinking of having this done. And I'm like, my love, you are so fucking pretty. Like, she's just naturally so beautiful. Yeah. And I'm like, it's your body. It's your choice. And I just want you to ask the question, why? Yeah. Why? Like, why are you doing this? And whose approval or validation are you seeking? And, I think there's something so beautiful about actually like really falling in love with your body. And on the other side of the spectrum, though, I've also been called a fat shamer, right? I've also been called the fat shamer for saying like, listen, I'm never going to take health advice from someone who's overweight. You look at a majority of doctors in America and they're 30 or 40 pounds overweight. Why the fuck would I take health advice from someone who's not embodying health themselves? Just like I wouldn't take financial advice from someone who's broke. Or I wouldn't take marriage advice from someone who has been divorced 6 times, right? Like, it's just common sense. If you want to learn something from someone, then learn from someone who's actually doing the thing. If you want to be super fucking successful and wealthy, guess what? Look at Elon Musk. Look at Jeff Bezos, right? Like, if you want to be an amazing basketball player, watch LeBron, watch Steph Curry, watch Luka Doncic. Like, it's not that hard, but we're listening to people who are absolutely ridiculous, which is why, okay, this rant is almost done. Okay, it's almost done. We have Rachel Levine, who is the health secretary for the US. By the way, she was born Richard Levine. I'm not even going to go into that for this rant, but she literally has 4 chins. And we're taking health advice from her. And I'm like, this is such a backwards world that we're living in. And if that's going to get me called fat shaming and get me canceled, then so be it, because I'm more interested in telling the truth. And now that we have RFK coming in, it's a 70-year-old dude who literally has a 6-pack and is like ripping 25 pull-ups. The dude is an absolute beast. Like, that inspires me. I will take health advice from you, you know, but going back to the subject, it's like, what are the beauty standards that women are being exposed to?
Yeah.
Especially now with TikTok and all of the things on social media. And just to drive that point home.
I feel it's like the Kardashians era, really, that we're living in. And these women have changed the beauty standards globally for, you know, for some time now, and it's probably going to continue for a while. And it's just astonishing to me that, like, Kylie Jenner, that has operated every part of her body and looks completely different, that, you know, a few years ago, being so young, is just on the cover of magazines as someone to look up for. And yeah, as a beauty icon.
Well, yeah, that's why it's so important, honestly, for us to just keep putting out our message, right? And be the light workers.
Yeah. And I want to give you a story. Because actually it reminds me.
Can I share one more thing first?
Sure.
One more thing, just to kind of summarize that, because I think what you said, like, is so, this is why I love having conversations with my friends that are just like smarter than me, right? Or have a different perspective, because like, I didn't think of it in this way. Like, your breasts are the most powerful portal to your heart. So if you have breast implants, you're blocking your heart chakra. You're not able to potentially fully experience love for yourself or give that love and receive that love from others. So if someone is on the fence about like getting implants, do your research, right? Read articles, read studies.
Do my course, Orgasmic Embrace.
For sure. Talk to women who have had implants, talk to women who have had explants. Notice the difference that they experience, because I don't know if you know Danielle Page.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a friend as well. And she's very open about her explant journey. And she literally had like autoimmune conditions. She was
implant disease,
feeling horrible from her implants. And she was literally doing all the things right, the supplements, the nutrition, the red light therapy, the working out. And she was so sick. And then the last thing that came to mind is like, oh my gosh, it's my implants. And that was like a light bulb moment for her. And after she got them removed, she just talks about like how literally every single thing got healed from her doing that.
Yeah, I have so many clients who were struggling for years with all kind of, you know, weird symptoms, and maybe it took like 5 or 6 doctors to realize that it was the implant disease. That's how it's called. Yeah, and what I wanted to share is a story of my client who actually lives in Miami. She used to live in New York. She was in the fashion industry. She operated her breasts early on, and she, of course, was trying to fit into, high fashion standards and liposuction and then this and that. She said, listen, there was like never an ending to it. Then she started menopause, and the breasts started to wait, and she took the implants out. Then she actually had the scars from the breasts. And this is the moment that she ended up in my course. And she told me, Bibi, for the first time in my life, I actually fell in love with my body. And for the first time in my life, I felt aliveness and pleasure and connected to all parts of my body. And I was already planning removing the scars, and I am totally giving it up. I'm not going to.
Oh, she was going to remove the scars from her surgery?
Yeah.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that was her next surgery, okay, or next treatment. Right. And she's like, I'm okay. I even fell in love with my scars. And for the first time, again, I accepted my body as it is. I'm not doing any more procedures.
Yeah.
I am feeling most alive, most connected to my body, most in love with myself I've ever done. And she's around 50. And this is such a beautiful gift. And from that moment, she even started writing a book about her journey and story. And it was so beautiful. And I had many more similar stories.
Yeah.
But it just shows me that I'm not saying that surgeries are all bad. Nothing is good or bad inherently. They do have consequences we don't talk enough about. And there's also so much you can do in your inner work and healing and self-love and connecting to your body to really find a lot of things that we are looking for when we go for surgeries, but that are an illusion. We will not find it there. The answer is really within. And yeah, I hope that is the message that we can convey here.
And here's another thing, and then we can transition, and then we'll wrap things up because I know you're getting tired. Oh, sorry, you're getting hungry. You're getting hungry.
Exactly.
I would say a pretty common reason why women get certain surgeries or implants is to appear more attractive to a man. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about that is that most men aren't really attracted to like breast implants. At least men I know. And
exactly.
And what I'll say is, what type of man do you think you'll attract when you have all of this work done? Like implants, lip injections, again, nothing wrong with those things. But you're going to attract someone most likely who values all of these external things.
Yeah.
They're not actually seeing you fully, right? And that's another thing to think about, right? Same thing for a guy. Yeah. I see so many men and hear so many men in Miami, and they're like flexing with their Lambo, their Rolex, and like all of their material shit. And they'll complain about a woman like wanting him for his money. And I'm like, bro, that's what you're flexing. That's what you're putting out to the universe. That's what you're going to call in. If you're identifying and attaching all of your self-worth to all of these external and material things, you're going to attract people who also value those things. Yeah. So if you want to actually attract more authenticity and more real human connection, then you'll go beyond the surface.
Totally.
You'll go deeper, right?
And it's so funny because we spend on both sides so much time on all those things external to attract a partner. And then we attract a partner, and the type of lovemaking that we have, it's actually not satisfying, not nourishing, not great, because this is where we put zero effort. I always talk about pussy gym, okay? And
pussy gym, yeah.
And about using, for example, yoni egg or holistic tools to bring more sensitivity and orgasmicness, right? We, again, spend so much time on all things external to attract a partner. And then we are in this partnership and it's not even nourishing and it's not even, erotically alive.
Yo, this shit is gonna hit. Holy shit. It's gonna be a late night editing this, team. But here's the thing that I want to finish, and we're on this point right now because I had this circled, right? Now, I don't know if you like share your age openly. No? Okay. You're in your 40s.
Remove that.
Okay. You're in your 40s,
yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Most women have a fear of aging and getting older and feeling like they're no longer going to be beautiful or sexy once they're in their 40s or 50s or whatever. And you're in your 40s and you're a beautiful embodiment of just a sexy ass woman. So what's the secret, Bibi?
Well, I have some of my own challenges through going into this process, and it's interesting and it starts to kick in. So again, it's something I think that is really so deeply ingrained in our culture that it's not that I'm like completely not caring about that. But what I would say is, I think with getting older, I just started to give less fucks. And I just know my worth. I know that I inspire people. I know that I do an amazing job. I am healthy. I'm sporty. I live an amazing life. And this is what makes me confident and empowered and really kind of rooted in myself and not so much worrying about my age and wrinkle here or wrinkle there, right? So that's number one. Number two, knowing also working with so many women who are in their 60s and 70s, because I have clients in their, late 50s, 60s, and 70s that are experiencing the most nourishing intimacy and lovemaking they've ever had in their life. So I know that actually when you cultivate that erotic aliveness, when you really take time to connect to your body, to bring more pleasure, it's nourishing. It brings vitality, it brings aliveness, it brings the magnetism and radiance that, let's be honest, radiance is not dependent on how you look, how much surgeries you have done, how expensive stuff you're wearing. It's the quality that just comes from the inside. So I would say all those things together, knowing your worth, giving less fucks, cultivating your erotic aliveness and pleasure. And what was the third one?
Just being swaggy as fuck, wearing some colorful, vibrant outfits with some Converses.
Understanding that your radiance comes from within.
Facts. It's so true. Fuck.
And that an amazing pleasure and orgasms and lovemaking are possible even in your 60s and 70s. And there's something to look forward to. And that we don't really have an expiration date like cheese, even though we're made believe so.
Unless it's like the shitty processed craft cheese. They put so much artificial shit in there. I don't think it ever expires. No, genuinely, I don't think it does. Anyways, that's awesome though. Yeah, and to hear that women in their 60s and 70s are having like the best sex of their lives is also really cool. And you're just doing super impactful work.
And my oldest male client is 84 now.
Your oldest male?
Yeah.
Really?
He's 84 and he is also experiencing the best sex of his life.
I wonder what it would be like for my parents to work with you. Seriously.
Yeah? Let's invite them.
Yeah, I think I might. I never thought my mom would be microdosing, but here she is, 76 years old, taking a little bit of mushrooms 3 times a week, mama. Yeah. As we wrap this up, one of the things I didn't get the chance to share, we didn't really talk about, my thing is microdosing. I'm like the fun guy, the mushroom man. And we didn't even talk about psychedelics or plant medicine this whole episode. Okay.
We did talk about it.
Very briefly, Bibi, which really upsets me. Okay. This is my podcast. We need to talk about what I want. And I'm pretty pissed right now. But one of the things where there's some alignment and synchronicity is I've been noticing and I've been witnessing people who come to my ceremonies, my mushroom events. And, more and more often it's actually like kids and their parents or couples.
Yeah. I want to take my dad to Ayahuasca.
You guys should come. Maybe we'll do a little, yeah, fuck it. I'm down worldwide, baby. Anyways, I truly believe that every single couple should do mushrooms together. And the reason I think that is because these medicines help remove some of the blockages energetically and emotionally that are stripping away the possibility for deeper intimacy and connection. And I think once we remove some of those blockages, it opens up like this new portal to connect in a deeper, more meaningful way where you actually fully see your partner, all parts of them, and you appreciate them and you express that gratitude for them. And one of the things that I observe whenever a couple comes to one of my ceremonies together is they both feel like this deep found appreciation for the other person. And they're like, wow, I really fucking love you. And I'm sorry if I don't express that enough, but you are so magical and you're so special, you know? And that's not the mushrooms talking. That's actually your authentic essence talking, but the mushrooms help remove the blockages that allow you to communicate that truth unapologetically, right? So I wanted to just share that. So I think, you know, maybe in the future we can I think there's going to be a co-creation in the future. Obviously I need to go through one of your.
Yeah, first you need to show up on a session, Jeremy, and restore that credibility.
Well, Bibi, I don't know. We've gone for probably 2 hours and 15 minutes. Insanity. The team's going to have a very busy job if we're still actually planning on pumping this out tomorrow. I'm probably going to stay up and help them because, you know, I work hard. But I just want to acknowledge you before we wrap up. First of all, is there anything you want to share? Like any final message that we didn't touch on?
You know what? No, we already have so many gems in there. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge you for the way you show up in the world. And yeah, you just have a beautiful energy and way of being that is so inviting. And it's like this beautiful dance between like being serious about the work you do and also being super playful. And I think we need more play. We need more fun. We need more of that in the world. And the impact you're creating on this planet is so necessary. And I'm just really grateful to call you a friend.
Thank you.
Yes.
Received.
Yes.
Pleasure to be here. And, you know, your kind of joy and authenticity and childlike excitement about everything is so contagious. This is what I want to appreciate about you. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, if you made it to the end of this episode, you are a fucking legend. Like, you deserve to just celebrate yourself right now. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to tag Planet Bibi on Instagram. Tag me, Jeremy Awakens. Let us know what the biggest divine download for you was during this conversation. Make sure to follow Bibi at Planet Bibi on Instagram. You can find all of the links to her different programs. She has amazing free offers, by the way, right? It's called Soul Connector.
Yeah.
So go to her bio. We'll link it in the show notes and just observe some of the work she's doing. And if it aligns with you, if it calls you, dive deeper, okay? Because so many of the things that she mentioned in this last 2 hours really just like resonated with me and shined a light on some of the things that I'm doing well and also some of the things that I really need to put more effort and energy into. So that was epic. Let's go.